I've got a sheet of A4 paper somewhere, and I look whiter than it. Hello, and welcome to the Hatch Pass podcast. My name is Ben, and this week I'm joined by Rhys.
Hello.
How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm tired.
Yeah.
It's hard playing cups weekend after weekend.
Oh, you're getting a bit old.
Yes, I'm feeling the age.
He's not got the stamina that we all used to. Anyway, welcome on in. I know there's going to be a bit of camera differential. I literally had one of my cameras being taken apart on the table before this podcast recording, trying to fix it. And the little HDMI output thing just popped out of the camera when I literally took the back plate off. So I need to get a camera to replace that. Also, the sun is causing me horrific pains. It's already warm enough as it is in here, so I don't want to have to set up lights and stuff to make sure that we're both lit. Hopefully the post-processing through Premiere will do me good. But yes, thank you very much for joining, everybody. This is a mid-tier podcast by mid-tier players, is what I would say if we weren't joined by a back-to-back cup winner in Rhys. So congratulations, first off.
Thank you.
You and Beth travelled up to Grimsby, and you took down that cup, and then you went to Southall,
Yes,
just
this
gone,
weekend.
and you took down that cup as well, facing off some pretty hefty opponents, pretty annoying decks, should I say, to deal with as Raging Bolt.
Snorlax twice in a day is more than you
fun.
want to deal with.
Yeah, especially when, for both cups, you played the same 60, and it was Raging Bolt.
Yes.
So, I guess, I know I said I'd do this after we talked about the cup thing, but let's just do it because it's a segue. Raging Bolt, why?
So I played Raging Bolt in the previous format with Sandy Shocks because when there was so I watch a lot of Andrew Mahone, and he was testing with Jesse Parker, and they had it on stream against other decks, and it looked fun, but the problem I always had with the Sandy Shocks one is you have to wait for your opponent to KO something for 2 prizes, and then you can really amp up the power of it.
Yep.
So turn 2, you can hit 210, and that's sort of your maximum output, which falls 10 short of most important HPs at the time.
Didn't quite have the right partner, did it?
No, so and then it had the Sliverwing as well, which again was its best answer to Mimikyu's, which eventually KOs itself, and then the Mimikyu's return,
and you're stuck. That's the one. Is it Stomp Off? I think that's the name of the attack. It's like 120 damage or something.
Yeah, but it does 90 or something back to itself, and so I played that for a while, and it was just Raging Bulk at the time.
Yep. When they were £2 a card.
Yeah. I don't know why. I just loved the giraffe guy, and then Twilight Masquerade come out, and the Teal Mask Ogopon really changed the deck. Yeah. Not only does it draw so much better, it just hits hard so often, so easily, and I picked up 4 Teal Masks and brought it to locals, and it just felt good, and I've worked on the list little bit by little bit through the weeks and months since, playing on live with it all the time, learning that the original list, so I just took a list that I found on Limitless, and you just lost a Guardy so often because the Bravery Charms come around, and
Drifloon can now slap you for stupid damage.
So the first fix was the Lost Vacuum, because originally it had like 2 Pokemon catchers, and I played Brambleghast once to locals, and when you're throwing 16 dice to try and KO things and you miss by 1 out of 16 dice, it just felt bad. So took out that bad card, put in the Vacuum, and changed the matchup completely. Yeah. And since then, I originally had a counter catcher in, but I just learned finding boss late game into a Charizard matchup is so much easier if I replace the counter catcher with the second boss. Yeah. Because by then usually you've flooded your board with energies. Your Teal Mass can come up and KO the second Zard, the first Zard. And I've just worked on it little bit by little bit. Took out all the nonsense cards, anything on a coin flip, and put in real cards. Yeah. Because I watch a lot of YouTube, and Azul often talks, you can see why decks like Roaring Moon, Raging Bolt play catchers, but real cards do real things. Coin flip, you're in the lottery.
This is something I was talking to somebody about at League Night, the new League Night that we've got on a Monday in Kirkby and Ashfield, if you're interested. It's under Kirkby Sales and Exchange. Go have a look. But no, I was talking to somebody about it yesterday. We're talking about Neutralization Zone, and how if that card is in play all the time, it's the best card in the format. Like, it just completely shuts off every deck that runs just basic boxes, right? But I'm getting to a point here. But with things like stadiums, there is no guaranteed effect from that specific stadium because somebody could just bump it or vacuum it. So your net gain from playing that card starts at 0. It doesn't start at 1. Whereas playing something like a boss, you start at 1 and you finish at 1. It has a high, like, it has a low ceiling, but it also has the same, like, you always get a guaranteed result out of it. The moment you play anything like Capture an Aroma, well, Capture an Aroma has a guaranteed result, but sometimes it's not the one you want. But when you think like Pokemon Catcher, or when Cramomatic used to be a thing,
Oh yeah.
and all of those sort of things that are coin flippy, there is always that chance that you don't get it, and then it's a waste of a card. So why not put something in your deck that guarantees you a thing, rather than potentially guarantees you a thing? Obviously, there are exceptions like Pokegear.
Oh yeah, Pokegear. I eventually went straight for a full 4 of them. Like, I just find late game, if you've drew into all your Sardas throughout the game,
Yep.
then they're perfect for that late game disruption. If your Pokestop stays around,
Yep.
is another out to your winning piece. Or if you want to gain that tempo early game, sometimes you have to play 3 of them on your first turn.
Just to find one Sada. Or the Iono, for
Yeah.
example.
So yeah, the Pokegears, again, are just so good in there.
Yeah.
Some matches you don't even need them. It's over before you've even played one, but sometimes so especially this Sunday, it's Pokegear. I find the Sada, but I don't want that. Pokegear, I find the boss, I don't want that. I'm looking for that one-off copy of Iono.
Yeah.
And Pokegear 3, I find it.
Yeah.
I can play the game now.
Yep.
Because Bolt just reminds me so much of Mew VMAX and Genesect.
Yeah, so so putting cards in there that guarantee a certain outcome is always really great. It's found its perfect partner Pokemon with Ogerpon. You are, as you say, with Mew, like, with Mew you were just drawing for the sake of drawing. With this, you also just draw for the sake of drawing. You more importantly want that energy attachment most of the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, you just dig through your deck, you find the thing you want, and off you go. It's quite interesting how, I mean, if you look at the market, when Twilight Masquerade first came out, Raging Bolts before it came out were £2. Then people realised that, oh my god, with Ogerpon, this deck's busted. They became £10 for a base rarity one. And it's like, yep, that genuinely just goes, look, this Pokemon needed that one extra thing to accelerate it into greatness, and here we are. Look, like, it's absolutely, it's a phenomenal deck. You find it comfortable, you enjoy it.
It's just navigating through that first turn, and that's why the Mew VMAX feel comes a bit. It was always a case of, once I've drew out that first turn, if things go right, then the rest of the game just feels smooth and easy going.
Yep.
And that's always the thing with Bolt, is sometimes you have a very bad hand. You've got your Sardas, but you've got no Nest Balls. You can't find any way to discard an energy, and then you've just got a Teal Mask, and you've got no way of accelerating to it to draw your cards. So once you get past that first turn, the deck just feels so, like, smooth.
Yeah.
You're going through your trekking shoes, you're bidding off things, you're thinning the deck out, and your opponent's trying to play setup decks, playing Zard, playing Dragapult, playing Drago, and they're whiffing pieces, or they're really wanting to find one piece, and I've drew through half of a deck, and those Ionos, those unfair stamps at that point don't feel so bad.
Yeah, unfair stamp down from 10 in hand to the 4 that you've got left in deck doesn't really matter, right? It's like, sure, I'll just draw back into them, it's okay. I'll energy retrieval and just draw 2 more cards. I'll Sada and just draw 3 more cards. Like, it's fine. One thing you are very good at when I've seen you play is managing your deck, and just sometimes you are playing cards to thin the deck for no apparent reason. Like, you're like, I don't need this, I'm just going to get rid of it so that I don't draw into it.
Yeah.
Because one of the biggest things that people don't realise is that it's not always great to draw into any card when you need to draw into a specific card. So thinning your deck out as much as you can, either bidding it off or putting it in your hand or something like that, just so that you're not top decking into, let's be honest, garbage. Like, if you've got 2 lightning out, 3 fighting out, and 1 lightning left in the deck, you don't want to draw that lightning.
No.
That is the worst. Unless you need it, that's the worst feeling in the world. You'd rather draw literally anything, like a trekking shoes, because then you can see 2 cards, a Sada, because then you can draw some more, or anything you like want to manipulate your deck to do, you can do, and you're very, very good at that. You're very good at being able to end the game with only 4 cards in your deck.
Yeah. So, and that's come from watching a top pro player playing regionals on stream, playing just live on a standard, and playing daft deck, like binning cards off at the right time, knowing what you want, and it's paying off. Like last year, I played a few League Cups, always played bad choice decks for those formats, but I was always hard to beat most of the time.
Yep.
But yeah, never really got anywhere sort of wildly streams think, oh, I'll make a top cut. But now I've played 4 cups this season and I've won 2. My first one of the season I came second and I had a horror show at another, and it was a no free and drop, but I'd had a very long week's holiday. So it's a good old 7-hour drive the day before, not played a game in a week.
Yep.
My skills weren't quite there that day.
Yeah, consistency of playing is definitely, I think, directly correlated to success. I mean, if you're a good player like yourself, you can pick up and tend to perform. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes you're too tired. Sometimes things are on the brain. You've not eaten breakfast that day. Whatever it is, there'll be a multitude of reasons. And sometimes you just hit bad matchups that you didn't want to hit.
That day I had some awful matchups.
But let's go to your success. We'll ignore the second place one because that was quite a while ago. Let's focus really on the past sort of 2 weekends. Let's go to the one that me, you, and Beth went to. We drove up to Grim Dice in Grimsby. Quirky little venue.
Yeah.
The gaming space is completely separate from the shop space, and they're like separated by flights of stairs and a shop. It's weird. Like a restaurant in between them or something.
Yeah.
But there was 19 masters that popped up for that.
Yeah, a couple of world competitors there as well.
Yeah.
And there was also a massive cup going off in Sheffield on the same day.
Yes, at Patriot. We had the decision to go to Patriot, and we chose to go to Grim Dice. I think it was a £5 cup, so it was super cheap. We didn't mind the travelling. Well, we did, but we'll get onto that in a second. It was super cheap. It was a case of, you're not guaranteed anything, like apart from a play pack, but other than that, it was like, cool, we'll go there. There'll be like 20 players. We'll still have a decent cup. Maybe we stand a better chance of going to it, because we knew that there were some pretty big names going to Patriot. And it's not a case of we scoped out the easier cup, if you like. That was a byproduct of the fact of it was £5.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cheap to just go and play in that cup.
As opposed to the standard £15. And you definitely think, oh, well, we might stand a better chance in a different room, because from the cups that I've been to now, apart from Grimsby, you see a lot of the same faces at the same venues, and that person might think that person's on that deck and that person's been on this deck, learn things, and it was really nice going all the way out there. Played some very different decks, didn't we, that day?
Yeah, we did. Sorry, just one thing. Some people might be like, but you drove further to Grimsby than you did to Sheffield. Not massively further.
No.
Like, it was an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 10 minutes in the car up to Grimsby, whereas it was 50 minutes, I think, from here to Sheffield. Yeah. So for an extra 20 minutes, that 10 quid is saved on fuel.
And parking probably is a lot cheaper there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it cost us £4 for the whole day of parking or something. It wasn't bad at all. But yeah, we played some interesting decks. I know there was a Lugia in the room, there was Block Lax in the room. There was a couple of Raging Bolts. A Raging Bolt in a Zard?
No, it was a Guardy Bolt.
Was it a Guardy Bolt? Yeah. Which was weird. There was an interesting Tinglu Frost last deck. Yeah. There was 2 of those in that room, a father and son duo. That was really interesting, actually. It was basically just damage spread and slap with the Tinglu for 30 every turn. It does 30 to the active, and then if you discard a stadium, it does 30 to the bench Pokemon as well. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, I didn't play into any of them, but yeah, there was some very different meta call choices in that part of the world.
You and Beth both took Bolt. I took Gouging Fire. Just because I've had loads of fun on it recently.
And he also knew he has a good Bolt matchup with
I do have a good Bolt matchup,
and he's taking 2 Bolt players now.
But out of the decks that I was choosing, all of mine tend to have a relatively decent Bolt matchup. Like I had Guardy, or it was basically Guardy or Fire. They were the 2 that I was sort of contemplating. But I've been having a lot of fun with Fire. I went to Mana Flux and had fun with that. But yeah, we ended up pairing each other round 2.
Yeah.
Which went the way that it had gone before when we'd played.
Yeah, it was like the 3rd time maybe we'd played the decks and you'd won everyone.
Yeah. And Gouging Fire continued to do its thing, and it won again. A pretty convincing 2-0 in Swiss. But you did brick one of the games, I believe, and then the other game was quite close. It just came down to who could do what next. Were there any particular matchups in Swiss that you struggled with, that you thought... Because you only lost that one, didn't you?
I tied the 5th round into Lugia.
Yep.
So I started the day with a win into Dialga, which I've played in a challenge and cups, and it just feels a pretty good matchup because they don't guarantee get to the
Star Kronos.
Yeah, the Kronos very quickly, and you can just slap it down before it's had enough Matangs play onto it. So yeah, that one was pretty convincing. Played you in the 2nd round.
Yep.
Played a very non-affair Greninja X in the 3rd round. He just bricked 2 games going. Like he's playing Misfortune against me when he's got no board developed and I've got death just looming for whatever comes next. Then I played a very good senior.
Drago.
Playing Drago. Yeah. Playing on a LAIC top 8 mat.
Yep.
But yeah, Drago matchup again for me feels very comfortable as long as there's no Noivern involved. And I asked her after, and her and her dad had decided Noivern's not going to win that matchup, so they don't play it. I don't
know. I think it might. You can just lock them.
And then going into round 5, we were all sort of, none of us could guarantee that we would be in the top 4.
Yeah.
So none of us could go ID, and I paired into the Lugia, which I've always known as my worst matchup as a Bolt. It's not so much being able to kill them, it's the fact that every time you kill something, they're drawing up to 7.
Yeah.
That's either giving them disruption or boss. So, and then Legacy.
You were into Lugia, I was into Blocklax, which I didn't want to do when I sat down, and then Beth was into the senior that you played on Drago. Beth finished first, I think, out of a lot of us, and she'd beat the girl. And then me and you were sat next to each other playing. I sat down thinking, I don't want to play Blocklax. Forgetting that, I've got 4 jet energy. Like, my whole deck is to manipulate stuff. And you were playing against the Lugia. And I was quite... I think I won that 2-0 in, 25 minutes or something.
Yeah, you finished a lot earlier than me, and I managed to take the first game win, strangely, into Lugia.
It was 25 minutes for game 1 of me, I remember now, which I thought was quick for Blocklax. I finished with 10 minutes on the clock. I remember that much.
But then when I seen that you'd beaten someone who was now going to be on 9 match points, if I could tie that out, I'm on 10.
Mm-hmm.
So I intentionally started to...
take every game action possible.
Yeah.
Yep.
And slow. So in game 3, I knew there was 4 minutes on the clock. I had 3 gears in hand. I didn't need a supporter. I just knew that was my best option to kill a bit of time.
Yeah. Which, before the comments go hating, that's an actual technical thing you can do in the game. Rhys didn't change his pace of play at all. He just played cards that were to produce an action, potentially to change his game plan, but most likely to produce that action.
But all in all, it just about got me there because we still think after we spoke to him with it, he could have got game that turn, but
yes.
He felt like he had too many energies in hand, but he could have Iono'd them back into the deck.
Yeah, it was weird. So he had an Iono in the deck, and I think he had a Luminion, and he played Luminion but didn't get Iono or something.
So yeah, he said he couldn't power his Blood Moon up because I'd not taken enough KOs and he'd got too many energies in hand. So
they're definitely. I remember us sitting there going, "There is definitely a way you do this here," which fair play. So you ended up beating Lugia. I ended up beating Blocklax.
No, I tied Lugia.
Oh, you tied Lugia. Yeah. Sorry. So you ended up what 3-1-1?
Yeah.
And I ended up 3-1-1. No, what did I end up? 4-1-1, wasn't it? 4-0-1.
You lost to Lugia, didn't you?
4. Yes.
So I think we were both 3-1-1.
I'm trying to think. Did I draw a match at all that game? So sorry, I'm trying to think. For me now, round 1. Do you know what? I've got this noted. I've got a literal note on my phone. Why would I not just check that? Wouldn't that be smart, eh? I won Quad Thorns. I won against yourself. I lost against Lugia, and I won against Blocklax. So I ended up going into Swiss 4 wins, 1 loss.
So you was the second seed, wasn't you?
Yeah, I was second seed.
and then Beth made the bubble on 9 points ahead of Blocklax.
Yep, literally, it was a case of it came down to whether Beth beat the Blocklax player's daughter, or if she'd lost, the Blocklax player would have got in. So then we got paired into rounds. So I was second seed, you were third seed,
Yeah.
Beth was fourth seed. So Beth ended up playing into the Lugia player, and then we ended up playing.
And perhaps that was better for us because Beth had the E-Hammer in her deck, and
The only one of us that had E-Hammer.
yeah, so
We got greedy.
it's one of them where I've tried E-Hammer,
Yeah.
and even when you draw so well, it's never in your hand when the legacy comes down. It's the decision of, do I want to restrict the hand draw off, get rid of the gift when I've got it now, or do I want to stop a 0 prize with Chinchino?
Yeah, or a one prize something else,
Blood Moon,
or whatever it is, yeah. So, yeah, she ended up taking down the win quite convincing. I think it was a 2-0, wasn't it? Or, no, it was a 2-1, but she did it quite convincingly, which was, no offense, Beth, to both of our surprises.
Yeah.
It was very, very surprising that she'd taken that win convincingly, considering Lugia is a very bad matchup for Bolt.
Yeah, it was so bad.
And then we ended up playing, and game one, I missed a thing and you outplayed me, and you won game one. Game two, you got off to a slow start. I capitalised on that and took it down. And then I'm pretty sure it was game three. We ended up going a few turns of not doing anything with just won prizes in the active.
Yeah, so we'd both learned that taking a one prize KO in locals into each other just does nothing for you.
Correct. You have to go 2-2-2.
And me attacking with baby shocks doesn't help either because you start using the monkey dory to
to move the damage.
Yeah.
That's how I won game one, right? Because I ended up I ended up taking 3 prize turn because I preset the Squawk ability and then used the Del Fox to knock out the active and the Squawk ability at the same time, which was pretty nice.
So yeah, it came down to you missing one of many pieces, didn't it?
Yeah, I think
turn.
I did the maths, and it was like 6% chance that I don't, or 7% chance or whatever, that I don't hit one of the cards that I needed to. And I hit that 7% chance. I was like, oh, for God's sake.
And you've ended the turn with a pass, and I had Prime Catcher in hand, and once I'd primed you, I also set up Checkmate that if you ever attack it with a 2 prize, I win.
Yep.
And yeah,
There was nothing else I could have done. Like, again, I think it was a case of, I think you went second in game 3, and you missed the turn 1 knockout.
yeah,
But I'd left a 1 prizer in the active, so that didn't matter. And then I'd whiffed the turn 2 knockout, I think, for me. And then you ended up taking a knockout. I took 1, you whiffed 1, I took 1. And you basically put a position where it was like, okay, we'd both whiffed bits at that point. And you just went, cool, I've got this. Bang.
and typically that was the first time I'd actually won a round into Gouging Fire.
Yep.
Because my first final was I lost to Luke Kirkham's Gouging Fire.
Mm-hmm.
In all the locals, I'd lost to you playing Gouging Fire. In Swiss, I lost.
To Gouging Fire. So
And I think you said before, you're going to win this one. It's just going to be my luck.
I told you. I did tell you. I said you were going to win it. Which, I'm not going to lie, I was a bit salty. I was also a bit worried about my car, but we'll get onto that in a second.
But it's more than understandable because you've spoken so many times how important this year of competing is for you. Like, set out big goals to start with. And part of me was, like, sort of felt so bad for it because, obviously, at the beginning of the season, I just wanted to make a cut.
Yeah.
And then my first cup, I made second, so it kind of felt like... And then at that point, I figured I'd probably lost before we started. I just like, well, we'll play it out. I'm going to be sat here anyway, because you're guaranteed one of us is in the final.
Yeah. Which was the most important bit, right? Like, the 3 of us went. Once Beth had won, we knew it was like an attach pass final, if you like.
Or at least one of us in the final.
Yeah, which was good.
So yeah, and yeah, I felt so bad about it. You disappeared to go to Halfords.
Yeah, I had to go try fix my car. They don't fit spark plugs at Halfords. Fun fact. Turns out it wasn't the spark plugs. Again, we'll get onto that in a second.
So yeah, me and Beth played the Bolt Mirror, and I'd said during the week, I was like, are we going to end up playing a Bolt Mirror? Because I've never played one in person.
Yeah.
Her list was a bit different to mine. She didn't favour Pokestops.
No, she went with Jamming Towers just to make that Guardy matchup even more favourable for her.
So yeah, she won the coin flip, which again is always a big determinator in the sort of ancient matchups, because again, you won the coin flip, you get to choose going second, and that means I've got to try and find a way of finding one of my 2 basics and leave that in the active and hope.
Yep.
And I took game 1. No, did I? I can't remember now. I must have.
Yeah, you took game 1.
Yeah.
Because Beth whiffed the attack
On the first
on
turn.
the first turn.
And had to leave the bolt in there.
Yep.
Game 2, I lost, and then it came down to the game 3.
Yep.
And
but you did that thing against me. You set up checkmate.
Yeah.
And you sat there and went, cool. Whatever you do, it's done. I remember sitting there after coming back and being like, Beth, just pick up the cards. It's done. I want to go.
Yeah. Because that's the thing I've learned is sometimes you can just leave both bolts with the same colour energy on, whichever one you choose to KO. I'm an attach for turn away from it.
Yeah.
Or I can leave it in case of both of them have got 2 energies on, and I've got 2 on Teal Mass, so that's 280 I'm hitting anyway without doing anything.
See, that was my problem in our top 4 game 1, is that I could only ever establish one gouging fire at a time. Like, I didn't get a chance to have both down because there was other bits I needed to do with my bench space. I couldn't get the chance to put both down to be able to go, I'm soldering for full effect. I was only ever getting one fire at a time at that point.
Yeah, it's something I've learned is my ideal board state in most matchups is 2 Ancients, 2 support, be that Greninja and Squawkabilly. Hopefully, usually it's just Greninja, and then the other spots are for Teal Mass.
Yeah.
And then if someone unwisely chooses to KO the Greninja, that frees up another space for a Teal Mask.
Yeah, it does. Whereas I think with fire, I've got to have, my ideal is like 2 fire, Greninja, Monkey, and then a spot spare that's usually taken up by a Squawkabilly because you have to go fast, or with like a Delphox or a
Mew.
The Mew, or even the
Luminion.
Nope, well, Luminion too, but the Moltres. Like there's so many Pokemon in that deck that are vying for that spot. Having the 2 fires is kind of difficult sometimes, particularly when you need to sequence stuff differently.
And it surprises me how easily you can go from no fire on board to 3 energies and it's attacking in the active. Like
scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's genuinely wild. Like Magma Base and Sada plus attach for turn is just wild.
And you play more stadiums than me, so you're winning the stadium war.
Yeah, and there's always going to be one kicking around. You do have the vacuum to get rid of one, but if you bin it early for whatever reason or you don't find it and stuff, it becomes a bit awkward.
And there's no HP boost in my bolt, so
nope.
Once you've set one up, it's
knocking everything out. Yeah. So yeah, you took the mirror down in the final and got yourself your first 50, well, your next 50 points, I guess, and a playmat, which is super good.
Yeah, I was buzzing, but also at the same time, it's kind of, it feels
it's a bit
bad
sweet,
because
isn't it?
You've travelled with your 2 friends. All of us are vying for our first ever cup win.
Yep.
You and Beth were both in your first top cup, was you?
Yeah.
But only my second. So, like, I personally want to take the chance of winning my first cup. It might be the only one I ever get to at this time.
Yep.
But it's also, like, bittersweet, sort of. You've had to do it against your friends. If it's against someone that you've met on the day, you're like, yes.
Yeah. Get wrecked, kid. In the bin. And then you're like, oh, I have to talk to these people next week. Oh, God.
I have to travel home with them now for an hour.
Yeah, well, it turned out to be more than an hour because my head gasket went in the car and we were 5 hours from initially breaking down to getting home. And a good 320 quid later, it was not fun.
1 hour on the hard shoulder stood there. Another couple of hours in the lay-by.
And then a couple of hours to get home on the back of the low loader.
So we left here at 7 a.m. and we got back at 11 p.m.
Yeah, it was a very, very long day. Very long day.
And an expensive one for Ben.
Very expensive.
And he wouldn't let me pay less petrol money despite the fact his car was brought back on a trailer.
I'd still my car got picked up yesterday and there's 300 miles worth of fuel in it still. And I'm like, I mean, I can't exactly pump it out. I mean, I could, but... Oh.
He made me push his garbage back on his driveway when we got back as well.
It's alright, the scrap value wasn't enough to cover it getting towed either.
Oh no.
Yeah, but so it was just, that whole situation was a bit poop. But on the upside, I've got a new car coming soon, so I'll take that. That's a big one. So yeah, you come away with a win from Grimsby, which is super cool. And then you managed to make it to Southall Dice Jail this weekend. Just gone.
Another small, quaint cup, so they're limited to a 24-player size just due to venue.
Yep.
We ended up with 23, 2 juniors, 2 seniors, and 1 no-show on the Masters, so 19, another top 4. Couple of people I know were there. Charlotte from our local group, Adam, he's not always with us in locals, but that's just because he's a little bit further out. But yeah,
Yep.
Aston, our senior.
He's in Worlds at the moment. Good luck, dude.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a couple of faces that I knew, and then you start to recognise the people that are travelling from cup to cup.
Yep.
They're on the hunt. And I'll start the day with pairing into Drago box. I won the coin flip as well, which hasn't been happening for me a lot at these cups. I've often been losing and being at the will of whatever my opponent wants.
Right.
But yeah, I played a little bit of Drago box locally just to give everyone a break from Bolt's oppressive nature at times.
Yep.
And it was as whiffy as it can be when I've played it. Like he had to research his starting hand, and there were 2 energy switch without any utilization of teal mass at this stage.
That's horrific.
And then he did his ability. I forget what it's called, even though I've been playing it, where you discard the top 7 and pick from your bin. But
the V-Star power.
Yeah.
Oh, what's it called? I don't know. Whatever.
Legacy Star.
That's the one.
Yeah, and he couldn't even pick those because he needed to pick other pieces that helped him play the game.
Yeah.
And he was attaching, hoping to hit these pieces to his active and wasting fire attachments. And obviously I'm just
doing Raging Bolt things.
Yeah, like even with it not being quite so smooth in the first game, and actually it went quite close in the end, because the Radzard came in and caused me a bit of issues.
Yep.
But yeah, I won that 1-2-0. Game 2 was sort of a non-affair.
Yep.
And then round 2, we get pairings, and I sit down opposite to Ethan, and I'd heard people in the room saying he was playing Lugia. I played him in Trident, and he was on Pidgey control, so I was like, great, I don't want to play Lugia.
Yep.
And there was some discrepancy in results, so we ended up with a repair. So that was my first bit of fortune of the day, as I ended up being repaired into a different matchup,
Yep.
which was Arcdactyl Hammers. I'd never played this matchup before.
Yeah.
I'd heard the name on some sort of fringe decks in some metas, some places, but yeah, I won the first game, but it was hard because League HQ comes down all my basics, even as much as I accelerate to them, and the Aerodactyl V-Stars are able to one-hit my bolts, so I was learning on the go in that one. But the biggest part of it was the disruption, is the unfair stamp to 2, the judge to 4, building up big hands. And I mean, I recovered from the first unfair stamp really well. I ended the turn with like an 8-10 card hand. Like,
wow.
One of the 2 pieces was a vessel, which
Yep.
Greninja gets you 2, Tealmask gets you 1, Sada gets you another 3 sort of thing.
Yeah, you're cooking at that point.
But yeah, game 2, he disrupted me too much.
Yep.
And got it. And we just didn't have enough time for game 3. We both set up, turns were called, and we both had 6 prizes in play and only 2 turns, so it was just shake hands and move on.
Yep.
But then I ended up feeling like I was on the bottom end tables into round 3, which kind of felt odd, so I paired one of the juniors.
Yep.
So I asked him, I was like, oh, are you doing well? So he's like, yeah, I've won my first 2 games. I was like, oh, that makes sense then. Because at this point I'm thinking, Jesus, what am I doing down at the bottom end of the room?
Yeah.
And he was playing Zard, and I think you could tell the age difference, sort of. He made his Zard and hit into my bolt for no KO. I not had the smoothest of starts, but I got to a position where once the Zard came about, it was dead through the tail mass.
Yep.
And it just makes the matchup so much easier as I take the first two prizes rather than risking it, taking out a Charmander or a Cleffa, and then counter catch a Defiance Band, KO return. And that's the biggest thing I found about Zard. So I feel like if I'd played a Master playing Zard, that round would have been a lot harder, but it was over in 20 minutes. The
Yep.
poor kid had a brick of bricks game 2.
Yep.
He had to nest ball for a Rotom to try and do anything, and I just bossed it up.
Just killed it.
Yeah.
Fair play. So you took that down 2-0.
Yeah, and had an extra 20 minutes on to lunch.
Then game 4.
Who did I have? I played Harry playing Snorlax round 4.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I feel like we'd spoke at Dice Cup a weekend or two before. I was like, I don't really know how I do into Snorlax. And he was like, it's an auto loss for you.
Mm-hmm.
So he sits down and I feel like he's being overly confident about the matchup. Fortunately, I start with the optimal starter, Raging Bolt. I get down a Teal Mass because you don't want to go too wide with your Teal Mass because
You've only got so much energy,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
You have to be careful with your 7 grass energies and how many you put down. And the flutes come down. He finds my Greninja. That comes out. But then that just helped me play easier, the Greninja, because he often gets me pieces before they get misfortuned or they get erried.
Yeah.
And I think in both matches in Swiss, he misfortuned or erried my Prime Catcher. But the way he set his board up was the biggest thing. Like, he put down his Cornerstone Mask, and that was just a free 2 prizes for me. That made Boss a switch. He went double Mimikyu against me, even though I'd got Baby Shocks out, which kills them. Yeah, sure, you put your Hero's Cape on one, but I had Vacuum for it straight away.
Yeah.
And yeah, I won the first game. It was very close. I nearly didn't get it, so my second to last prize card was my Cancelling Cologne.
Yep.
He played his turn before, counter-catched the Greninja for the umpteenth time or wherever it was. He'd countered my 2 switch carts in my discard, my Prime Catchers. He'd got rid of my Power Pad, and he thought he'd set up. And I just went, great, Cologne, attach, retreat, and it was, of course you've got Colognes up, but not in those kind of words. And,
something a bit less family friendly.
Yeah. And I was like, am I not supposed to play good cards in my deck?
Yeah.
Am I not supposed to respect top decks in Snorlax sort of thing? Like.
Yeah.
And then game 2, he's now sweating because Snorlax doesn't win games very quickly.
No, and he's got what, 15 minutes left on the clock or something like that. Yeah.
I ended the first game with sort of 2 free cards left in deck. I was a turn away from a Chi-Yu loss sort of thing.
Yeah.
And game 2, I had lots of luck as well, and I started with triple retrieval in hand, a couple of Pokegears and a Pokestop, and I wasn't playing the game, so I spun the Pokestop, Prime Catcher, 4th retrieval, Pokegear. I was like, great, this is the juiciest of juicy Aries he's going to ever have.
Yeah, he's going to get a choice of everything.
So, play the first gear, I hit a boss. Play the second gear, I hit Asada.
Yeah.
And I'm praying that I find my one and only Iono on the third one, and I find it. I was like, thank God for that, because those pieces are all just so important to the matchup.
So you slap it down.
Yeah, and we play the game from there. And I just had a lot of fortune in that one. Again, perhaps his board state, once he fluted out the Greninja, he should have cleared out everything but the Snorlaxes again, because boss is a switch if you've got Mimikyus and you've got Cornerstones. Rotom stayed down far too long.
Yeah.
And yeah, my bottom 4 cards of the deck had 2 switch carts left in them, and yeah, I took that one down, and that put me on 10 match points, and yeah, I could ID in the 5th round, which is always nice.
Yeah, you paired into Ethan 5th round?
So yeah, my round 2 would have been hard, and even then, I know an ID is perfect for me. It's even more so when you know it's a Lugia matchup.
Yeah, you get to ID in that and get the match point that you probably would have lost otherwise. And then you ended up going to top 4. Now, top 4 was yourself, Ethan, Harry, and Andrew Emerson.
Yeah. So Maridon with Emerson, me on Bolt, Harry Blocklax, and
Ethan on Lugia. And you ended up pairing into
Ethan
on Lugia, which is not what you wanted.
No. So yeah, because we ID'd and Emerson's match finished quite quickly, so he was 4-1-0, and me and Ethan were both 3-1-1, so we'd figured that we would paired anyway through seeding. So I was like, yeah, well, I'm happy I've made another top cut. It's not a great matchup, and then even worse, he wins the coin flip.
You did the same thing you did against me in top cut, where you're like, I've probably lost this, but let's go.
Let's just play it anyway.
Yep.
I'm just happy to have made another top cut. I've had some good luck through the day, had some favourable pairings again.
Yep.
And Yeah, he won. He drew like a god game one. Starting hand, Ultra Ball, double Archeops, Carmine going first, Nola minions needed. He always went with the second Lugia in respect for my donk ability.
Yep.
Right, you never want to. Whereas that could have been a Minchino in other matchups.
Yep.
I hit through the legacy on his second Lugia and lost the first one, so I chose to go first. Game 2 gives me an extra turn to
Set up.
Yeah, and if he only gets one Lugia down and it's on the bench, gives me the opportunity to set up where I don't have to start a turn for my turn. I can play boss if I haven't got prime, and I was bricked really bad game 2 again. So it came down to fortunately I got turn attachment on my bolt in the active. I'd got a teal mass with an energy on the bench, but it came down to gear on number 2 or 3 again onto Iona.
What is this? What is this?
Just to play, because there was nothing else going off in my hand. I couldn't play Sada. I had no way of discarding energies, no nest balls, nothing to get them. And fortunately, Iona led to the other energy type that I needed, led to the second teal mask and a KO on one of his 2 Lugias, but from then he just didn't have the greatest of hands. And we go to game 3. He chooses first, obviously. It's favourable to him. We had a decent amount of time, but not. We were only playing 50-minute top cut rounds again, same as at Grimsby. But yeah, it came close. It came down to turns. I went second, took 2 prizes. Turn 1, I drew so well that third game. But something I'd learned a lot of late is I wasn't utilising the Sandy Shocks in the matchup enough. Because for 2 energies it can one hit the Chinchinos for weakness.
Yep.
But for 1 energy it can't because of the text on the card. So I went down to needing 2 prizes on my first of 2 turns, but I used the Prime Catcher to get my Sandy Shocks to KO his Chinchino because he'd finished off my bolt with his Flutter Mane.
Yep.
And I knew that if I didn't do that, then the Chinchino's probably taking 2 prizes anyway.
Yep.
So I went down to needing 2, and at this point he'd got 2 turns, but he needed to take 4 prizes, but I left a 1 prizer in the active.
Yeah, and if he can't get around that and has to hit in the face, and with no Chinchino set up...
He had 1 bench Minchino, so he could have got a Chinchino, but it's whether or not you have the piece in hand.
Yep.
Lugia decks have changed of late. They're playing less on the Chinchino lines to fit in more hands, weird ears, blood moons.
Weird stuff.
Yeah, and he Luminion for Iona.
Yep.
I had a very small deck at this point. I had 1 or 2 bosses maybe left in it for a couple of gears. Pokestop was still in play because I'd KO'd his second Lugia before it got rid of my second stop. And he ended the turn not being able to take enough prize cards to win the game on his last turn of turns. But I managed to... I had, I think, 9 cards in deck and Pokestop. My Iono led to 1 Poke game. I was like, I'll just risk it. I'll thin the deck down and Pokestop the top 3. And now I've got a 6-card deck. I was like, I've got it. Gear, boss, Luminion, game. But I felt like even if I didn't have the boss, I would have gone down to needing 1 prize card. Perhaps we'd have had another turn, but it would have been another turn where I'm taking the attacking turn first to get my last prize. So I felt like, and I was just dead relieved. Whilst at the side of us, we had probably 10 minutes of draw pass, Photon Blaster, draw pass as Harry had locked in the Mimikyus on a fully X board of Miraidon. Because Emerson was like, the clock's on your side when you're playing block lacks, so there's no point conceding if you can.
I mean, the other thing is, right, like if he's got a fully X board, he probably should have left like a Zapdos on the board or something.
I don't know if it was a case of fluting out or the extra EXs or
possibly,
not, but he'd got a board where it was locked into just the Xs, so Harry was playing the draw pass, Pidgeot eventually draw pass or Chi-Yu for the game. But yeah. That's what was happening at the side of us whilst we were playing Pokemon. They was playing
a bad game of Snap and nobody was winning. Yeah. So then it ended up you being
playing Harry in the final.
Yeah, you versus Blocklax. So was it very similar to the Swiss round in terms of how that went?
So I won the first I went 2-0 against him in Swiss, but he won the first game. It came down to a Chiyu mill, but I think he'd got it anyway, just through natural drawing anyway.
Yeah.
He got a lot better on the misfortunes and the areas on pieces I needed to get the Greninjas and stuff out of the way, because 4 flutes in these decks, eventually they're coming down. So, yeah, the first game went quite long. So I obviously choose second, knowing that Snorlax wants to go second just to hopefully play Arven for turn to get Sealstone and Nest Ball or whatever.
Yep.
But we both had a very suboptimal board going into the second game. I started Baby Shocks, he started Cornerstone. He ended his turn benching Chi-Yu, just in respect of he needs to have a second bench Pokemon in case I do just
donk him.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I had a choice. I had one Nest Ball, I had Energies, I had Sardas in hand. I didn't want to Squawk because I had very important pieces in hand, but I also wanted to play the game. I wanted to capitalise on the fact that I played a lot of Snorlax when the last block rotation happened.
Yep.
And the worst thing to do against Snorlax is do nothing.
Yeah, you have to progress your board state in some way.
You have to put pressure on them to make them have to do things beyond just misfortune.
Yep.
Area you each turn.
Yep.
So I Nestballed for Greninja, and he looked at me like I was an idiot. Like, I was not expecting that. Like, well, you're probably going to flute it out anyway at some point.
You might as well take advantage of
Yeah.
the fact that you are going to have to give up to having it on the board at some point.
And I need to play the game. I need to put pressure on. You've got 4 prizes in play. If I can get them killed before you fix your board with Penny,
Yeah.
then yeah.
And if you're having to penny, you're not arvening for bits you need or doing this or doing that. Yeah.
So yeah, the Greninja come down. It got counter-captured. I bossed out of it. I managed to switch cart out of it. I lost the Prime again to Misfortune, but yeah, managed to take all 6 prizes again. It came very close, but then game 3 starts with 7 minutes on the clock, and that's not much fun for Block Lax players.
No.
Because I knew, but only from watching Worlds last year, that at time it comes down to prizes. So I knew there was that element on my side, and yeah, I started Baby Shocks again, double boss in hand. Not a great deal of search. I ended up going for the Teal Mask to draw 1 card. I got a Bolt down. I eventually did a lot. It was a lot of pass.
Yep.
Pass. He put the handheld fan on his active Snorlax, so I was like, well, I'm never attacking into you with my little shocks because I'm not letting you manipulate where my energies
Yeah,
go.
of course. Yeah.
I didn't let you in Swiss, I'm not letting you in right now.
Yeah.
Because obviously Bolt can get around it, you just discard them all off the active and there's no handheld fan shenanigans.
Yep.
So yeah, it was a case of biding my time. Actually, no, the Baby Shocks was Erica'd out, so he knew from like turn 1 or 2 of his that I'd got double boss in hand, and I just knew it was a case of bide my time and wait for the right moment to boss Rotom and take 2 prizes in a deck that's not got a great attacking option. He did play quite a few energies. Cornerstone is an attacker in the deck.
Yep.
But yeah, he knew that things weren't looking good for him. He was already unhappy going into top 4, knowing it was 50-minute rounds, sort of thing.
Well, that is down to the store. They can do 50 an hour, 75, or sometimes unlimited, depending on what timing restrictions they have on the shop as well.
But having played Snorlax a fair lot online, is you've got to know when to push your advantage or when to play it slow, like.
Yep.
And at that point, there was no rush for me. I'd managed to get this second game win, so
You'd got your prizes under your belt, you were
Yeah.
happy, and then you ended up taking the W.
yeah. So it just came down to retreat off Mob Boss Rotom, retreat and KO it, and take 2 prizes at turns. So
And then go, good luck. And which obviously the Snorlax at that point just goes, well, I can't do anything, I guess I lose.
yeah, he'd aeried me and he offered me the hand. He knew that he'd lost at this point. He did say he'd prized his Earthen Vessel, which would have allowed him to find the energies to start attacking, but Ghost Eye's not doing a whole lot to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm 70.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me, 70 damage counters, and then it just dies to the Sandy Shocks. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, sure. Okay, so cool. So you ended up taking down your 2 arguably worst matchups, I guess, in the room, in Sandy Shocks and in Block Lax and in Lugia. in top 4, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So that is you now on what? You're on 155 CP?
Yeah, so two cup wins, 1 second, and the challenge win at our locals.
Yep.
My only challenge I've played so far, so yeah.
Nice.
I didn't play a lot last year, different commitments for the weekends, but this year I've put in a bit more effort.
You got rid of that stupid kickball game, whatever people play.
Football. Sacrificed that to play more Pokemon, and it's gone well so far.
Get your passport sorted, start coming to regionals, go to Worlds.
Yeah, I'm just really excited for when they actually release the play page, just to see where I am currently before there is any European regionals.
It's up there now.
None of my points are on there. It doesn't tell me where I rank for this season.
Oh, does it not?
No.
It does for seniors and juniors.
So I checked again this morning, and it's got all my event recordeds on there, but I've got no CP totals on it, so...
No CP? They are doing something weird with that at the moment, to be fair.
So yeah, Adam feels like I'm probably in the top 10 for the UK. It won't last. I know that for a fact, because I've not got any regionals planned until probably the UK one, until I get passport sorted. But
yeah, get it done.
Yeah, how I've started the season has made me think that perhaps this year I might have to.
You're 19th.
Really?
Yep. You're 19th currently. First place has 205, second place has 195, third place has 183. So yeah, you're currently sat at number 19.
Which I'm not unhappy with for 5 premium events.
Yeah, it's a really good conversion rate. It's a damn sight better than myself or Beth for conversion rates. So yeah, take that as a W.
And yeah, Bolt has just been... I was really happy with the 60. The downside of live updating into the Shrouded Fable format is people start playing Shrouded cards, so the testing on live is a bit different, but I stuck through it up until Sunday with my 60 online. It still felt pretty good. On live, obviously, draws differently. Card games a lot easier for people with a highlighted energy attachments, etc.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, it felt good, but obviously now I have to work on...
I was going to say, what are you playing in Shrouded Fable? Because that's a completely, does Bolt struggle now with Dusclops and Dusknoir fixing a lot of maths into these certain matchups?
Yeah, it definitely makes me worry. It definitely makes me think I might have to start including some Bravery Charms or some Ancient Boosters, because Zard now doesn't have to worry about...
Doesn't have to wait.
Yeah.
It just blows up its own thing.
But a lot of the times I've found, as long as I set good tempo, they don't get time to Dusclops. It just sits there on their bench as a wasted bench space, because it then equals out the prize trade for me if they give me the 1 prize, because you can't use it once you're attacking with Radzard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an interesting one. It's something I need to test more at locals. Test into you with your Dragapult and your 6 prize turns.
I'm telling you, it's incredible.
Against me.
It's like, sure, you go down to 2 prizes. That's okay. I win.
Yeah, so I don't know if Bolt is still as good, but he's definitely been good for me in Twilight. So I will definitely persevere and try him perhaps in the coming weeks, because I just like playing basics that can hit hard and hit fast.
You're a basic... I can't say that word. I'm not bleeping it out because that's editing effort. So yeah, you just like big basics. I mean, to be fair, I can't say much different at the moment. I'm going into Shrouded Fable format. I'm not running Gouging Fire because it kind of just dies a little bit. Dusclops. One of Gouging Fire's biggest things is with the Bravery Charm, it's 280 on a basic. Like it's big, it's beefy. People don't, care. They just Dusclops it now and it's whatever.
And I think for cups and challenges, ancient decks are good choices because of the limited amount of rounds. Regional wise, you're going to have to dodge some bad matchups consistently, I feel.
Yes, yeah.
Because the problems with wanting to play Guardies and stuff is you have a 1 bad match, you're probably going for a tie that round, and too many ties in a 5 rounds of Swiss is...
It's not good.
No.
You might as well go for a donk deck, right?
Yeah.
And just donk
win
them.
fast or lose fast.
Exactly.
You don't have to worry about conceding too often with that deck into too many matchups because the games are over quick enough.
Yep. Well, you have had some very, very good success so far. As I say, you're 19th in Europe at the moment, so come on, get your passport sorted and come to some regionals. That's pretty good. So congratulations on your performance.
Thank you.
That is awesome. It's nice to know that you are, I guess, I was going to say bringing up the caliber of a player at our locals. Like, there are definitely, I imagine, some people look at certain local places and go, there's nobody of name there, therefore they must be bad at the game kind of thing, when in actual fact it's not. You know, you are there are other people there that are competent enough at the game to perform and stuff. So yeah, let's hope we see some decent results out of you this season, and it's not just like a fluky section in the Twilight Masquerade format.
I had a good quarter, and
yeah,
that was it.
It's like, cool. I might have been 19th in Europe, but now I'm 198th or something. You know, let's hope you keep that up. So
yeah, we'll definitely be going to more cups challenges throughout the year, but my biggest thing is going to be picking up big points at a regional course. That's the next big challenge, is to make a day 2. That would be the first goal.
Well, you know, you need to get some passport sorted, and you need to come to more regionals. You know, myself and Beth are off to Dortmund, and you're not joining us for that, boo-hoo. But you should definitely get it sorted so you can come to some regionals and hopefully make 125. Whether you go to us or not, different, but hopefully make 125. But no, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you being here and talking through your weekend and your success. On Raging Bolt, you feel comfortable. Hopefully we'll see you again come the Shrouded Fable format passing and the Stellar Crown format passing. We've not had a huge amount of time to talk on that, but we'll talk about that at some point. I'm sure me and Beth will do like a rundown of the set or whatever in an episode or two's time. But yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
You've done very well, and hopefully when we come to another top 4, we don't have the same same thing happening again. But no, thank you very much for listening, everybody. I appreciate you being here. This is Rhys. I've been Ben, and we'll see you next time. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.